Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for watching live stream from wherever you are. I'd like to mention that on the table in the back, we have some flyers and newsletters that have for upcoming events. I'd also like you to notice I have placed questionnaires in your chairs if you would take a few minutes to fill those out. And there's a box on the table in the back you could place those in. And it does help us with future programming. Tonight, we have local author Peggy Konert. Peggy was born in Fort Smith, attended the University of Arkansas and the University of Kansas. She grew up with nearly 100 cousins in a small German Catholic community in the Arkansas River Valley. She's been inspired by stories of her grandfather, a coal miner who died of black lung. Peggy is a former Vista Volunteer, truck driver, food service director, adjunct professor, and social worker. She's also an author and a master gardener and a world traveler and my friend. Her debut novel, A Shine of Coal, starring Julian, is her first published work. Let's welcome Peggy.
Good evening, and this is pretty incredible for me, and I hope it is for you too. So, one thing that I want to talk about before I start is kind of where this story came from. And it kind of started with a writing group about 20 years ago, 15, Hen's Teeth, and we started writing from prompts, and it actually just started coming through me. I never thought about anything I wrote. It just came. And then my uncle moved back here, and they started working in Paris, Arkansas, to make a oral history of all the coal miners that were left from Paris and that area when it was incredible coal mining down there. And what made it incredible is that it was anthracite, the hardest burning coal. But when World War II came, the big boys came in and pretty much took it all with World War I and then World War II. So after that, guys, and even before then, guys could come in and lease an old coal mine for practically nothing, and with some axes and shovels and dynamite, they would go down and try and make a living. And if you've ever driven down Highway 22 between Fort Smith and Little Rock and seen, there's so many little towns there. It was one of the major routes through St. Louis that German Catholics came from Germany. So every little town has a big old cathedral. It's really amazing to see. So this book is kind of centered around Paris, Arkansas, and its people, those coal miners, their families, the German Catholic community, and then Paris itself. So I have recreated, kind of from the 40s, the Paris Square from this book. And many of the stories from this book I borrowed from here. Also, my grandfather's story's in here, and my uncle Adrian. My grandfather is in the book as Daddy. My grandmother is the mom in the book. My uncle Adrian is Freddie, and then my mother and her 7 sisters make up the 2 girls, and I couldn't have 11 characters, so I put them in the 2. And it's all fiction, because when you write from just what you remember or comes through you, and you pick up stories in here, and they resonate with you, they come from somewhere, but I create it. It's called fiction. And even though when the first reading I did was at the Paris Coal Miners Museum, and 14 of my cousins showed up, unrelated, who I had no idea were coming. And when I read to them, especially the one where my uncle really does get caught in a coal mine explosion, and then his father, my grandfather, rescues him, they were all crying, these big men. I mean, it just resonated something with them. And so every story I read to these and some of the people who were there were in-laws, but they all had someone who was part of the Paris Coal Mining Museum, whether they were a blood relative or married to one or hanging out with one. but they all had their stories. And everywhere I've read, someone has come up to me afterwards to tell them about their grandfather, their uncle's brother, their great uncle, who died in a coal mine. The other amazing thing about this coal mine is that the coal itself was like a 4-foot wall of coal. So they were small, little beehive-like rooms that they worked in and coal mined in. And many of them you couldn't stand up in. They had to either be on their knees or sitting down to get the coal out. And many of these coal miners then, by the time they were 50, couldn't walk, or they could only walk on their knees, some of them, because of that. Only 82 coal miners died in about 50 years in those coal mines. Because they were such small rooms, they didn't have the big explosions. But many, many died from black lung before it was even named black lung, and one of them was my grandfather. So this is the story of many, many miners, their families, and the whole migration of people who came to the River Valley to be coal miners. Thank you. And I always start with the birth of June Ellen. Can y'all hear me okay? Good. I was born in Paris, Arkansas on the day my daddy quit breathing. That was the day they set the dynamite to go off in my daddy's coal mine, the Shoal Creek, to open a new vein because the one they were working on was just about petered out. The explosion sent a ton of coal dust straight into my daddy's lungs, and he collapsed right there. They took him to the Paris hospital, and Dr. John, who took care of the miners, put him in the oxygen tent. Uncle Albert took the truck and went and got Mama. When Mama saw Daddy, he had a white smear around his mouth, but his face was black from the coal dust explosion, and she thought he was dead. She screamed and slid to the floor. Then her water broke, and I slipped out. It took all of 5 minutes. Fright will do that to you. I was 4 weeks early, but I had good lungs, the doctor said. Since I came so quick, I was born right on the floor where Mama had collapsed. My head hit the floor first, and I started yelling. That's when my daddy came out of shock and opened his eyes. There we were, my mama and me, both on the floor, screaming. Dr. John said, "Fred, you got yourself a baby girl." Mama looked up, saw Daddy staring at us with a big grin on his face, and realized she had a baby. She pulled me up to her chest, stuck a nipple in my mouth, and we both stopped howling. Meantime, the doctor yelled at the nurse, "Get her a bed." Then she cut the cord. I was fine, but I wouldn't let go of that nipple. My mama, a big, round woman, still lay on the floor. It took 4 people to lift her up on that bed with me on top. My brother, Freddie, wanted to name me Snapper, because with my pointy head and me holding on to my mama like that, I looked like a snapping turtle that wouldn't let go till it thundered. April Lee, my sister, just kept hollering, so she had to be sent home with Aunt Annie. The next morning, Daddy was able to catch his breath, and Mama decided to go home and take care of her kids and her chickens. Her chickens were real important to her. Dr. John said Daddy was better and would be home soon. I was still holding on, so she tucked me into the top of her dress, where I just kept sucking. Daddy named me June Ellen because I was born in June. That was how I spent my first day in this new world. I was determined to grab hold of whatever and not let go, and I'm still that way. Some people call it stubborn, and I admit it's gotten me into trouble. But I was born with it, and I aim to see it through. I wanted to be a coal miner, like my daddy and my big brother Freddie, but Daddy wouldn't allow it. He told me, "Girls can't be coal miners, June Ellen. They say it's bad luck for girls to go down in a coal mine." I didn't believe him, and that set me on my course to get down into our mine and see for myself what it's like to be down under the earth where there's no light except for what you bring, just black dark. Paris once boasted one of the biggest beds of anthracite coal in the state, the hardest, cleanest burning coal. World War II and the big guys, with their fancy machines, took most of this good coal, and they leased the mines they were through with to little guys, like my daddy. He leased the Show Creek mine. Then Daddy and Uncle Albert hired a crew to go in with pickaxes, shovels, a little dynamite, and sweat, and pick out what was left. He and Uncle Albert had gone to the war together and were like brothers. They married sisters, my Mama Cora, and Aunt Annie, and had been working together in coal mines ever since. Daddy worked hard to make a living for us, but after the explosion, he had coal dust in his lungs, which slowed him down some. You'd think seeing Daddy cough so much would have scared me about going down into that coal mine, but I wanted to see that big, dark, beautiful place. This is a story of how I saw the shine in a piece of coal and what became of our mine, the Show Creek. Thank you, thank you. So it's summertime, and this whole book takes place in about a year. And I do want to tell you that Dr. John was the doctor there who saved a lot of coal miners. And Marilyn just told me that Dr. John's son, Dr. John, was her husband's best man when they got married. So that everywhere I go, somebody knew somebody or was there. So amazing. Thelma Hazelwood. In August, the dog days came on, hot and dry. They're called the dog days because you can see the dog star Sirius in the night sky, not because it's so hot that the dogs won't move. Sister Agatha, the librarian, made sure we knew that. Daddy had coughed all night. It's too hot to breathe, he told Mama when she went to check on him. She sat with him and wiped him down with a cold rag. The next morning, Daddy got ready to go to work. Mama said, "Fred, don't go down in that mine today. Give your lungs some time to breathe. You need fresh air. Cora, it's a lot cooler down in that mine than up here. I'd probably sleep better down there too." Well, Mama walked back in the house and started wiping down the table. "June Ellen, I'm real busy today. Find something to do and give me some peace." The sun bore down, piercing everything. Nothing moved except the heat waves that dangled in front of your eyes if you squinted a certain way. I decided an adventure downtown to Haney's drugstore would set my mind right. Mr. Haney put in big overhead fans along the bar of his soda fountain. I'd go sit at that soda fountain under a cool breeze. I didn't have anybody to walk to town with since April Lee got too snooty and read movie magazines all day. So I was particularly sensitive to my surroundings that day, and that's why I noticed Thelma Hazelwood on her front porch. She wore a bright red hat perched on top of her head, which reminded me of the single red hollyhock that was left in the Lahoski's barnyard. That single hollyhock was surrounded by barnyard dust and dirt, just like Thelma's red hat on that dirty, dusty porch. I didn't think much about Thelma because I hardly ever saw her. Her house sunk down back from the road across the railroad tracks. Daddy called it a shotgun house. You fired a gun in the front door and the bullet came out the back. Back there, behind the railroad tracks, it blended in with the brown fields and the dry woods that ran up behind it. And Thelma looked just like her house. She blended in with her surroundings like the chameleons I studied in science class. They take on the color of what they're sitting on so you don't notice them. I wished I could do that. I'd be a great spy. At first, I stopped to look close up to see if it was a mirage, but no, it wasn't. Thelma sat up there in a black dress, faded to dust practically, and those black granny shoes like the nuns wear, in her big red hat perched on her head. I decided to take some time and visit. I never talked to Thelma by myself. Sometimes Mama said hello, but I'd never walked up to her porch alone. "Hi, Miss Hazelwood, hot today, isn't it?" Suddenly, a big old skinny hound dog rounded the corner barking, followed by a ragtag group of mutts, all sizes and colors, and they began to bark. "Shut up, you mangy hounds, or I'll shoot you," she yelled. It was hot, and they shut up easy, and slowly wiggled their way down under the porch, except for a big old hound dog who slunk over to Thelma. Thelma stared me down good with those cold black eyes of hers and those eyebrows that went straight across her forehead like one long brush. I was not put off easy, though. April Lee calls me nosy, but I just have a great curiosity about people. I like your red hat. Who are you? Well, I'm June Ellen, Fred and Cora Thackeray's daughter. I'm their youngest. You probably don't remember me. I like your dog. Thelma looked at me long and hard. I'm on my way to Offenbacher's funeral home, she said. Who died? I asked. Me, she said, looking at me in the eye again. You aren't dead. I'm sitting here talking to you. There they are, come to get me. And Thelma got up and laid herself down on the porch. She shut her eyes and clasped her purse in her hands over her big belly. I could see her red hat was held on with all these hat pins, and it sat right there, pretty as you please, it didn't budge. I'm dead now. Please leave and give me privacy. Rufus lay down next to her. He was hot and panting away. I looked up to see the old black hearse from Offenbacher's with 2 men inside, cross the railroad tracks, and turn down her dirt drive. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I needed to get help, so I took off running for the dime store. Sweat poured my eyes and stung like salt water. I got a stitch in my side, but I was too scared to stop. I ran to the square and just stood there all bent over, trying to catch my breath when the hearse went by. I took off running beside it. Who's in there? I yelled. Who's in there? The Offenbacher funeral home sat just a block off the square, and soon the hearse pulled in the driveway. The driver jumped out and yelled back at me, Young lady, what are you doing? Don't you have any respect for the dead? Yes, sir, I do. But who's in there? Why, this is Miss Thelma Hazelwood. She's not dead, I started yelling again, and ran back and started beating on the back door. Just then the door opened, and Thelma sat up with her red hat on. I screamed and fell down in the driveway. Thelma yelled, Child, show some respect for the dead, and then she fell back down. About that time, Mr. Offenbacher himself came out the back door. What's going on here, young lady? What are you doing? She's not dead. Thelma Hazelwood is not dead. I was just talking to her on her front porch. Mr. Offenbacher took a handkerchief out of his pocket and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Well, young lady, I think I can help out here. First, tell me, who are you? I'm June Ellen Thackeray. Fred and Cora Thackeray are my parents. Well, June Ellen, I'm glad to meet you. I know your dad. He delivered me some good coal one time. I hope he's doing good. I know he got a bunch of that coal dust in his lungs. Well, he's at our coal mine right now working, and he'd believe me that Thelma's not dead. Well, I believe you too. How would you like to step into my office and have a cold Coca-Cola while I explain something to you? I looked him up and down, giving him my own hard-eyed look I'd been working on. I was awfully thirsty and hot, and the thought of an ice-cold drink won me over quick. I picked myself up and went with him into the old funeral parlor, and sure enough, he had a little office off to the side with a big desk and a leather chair for him and 2 wooden chairs in front. I slid into one when a short woman with her hair in a bun on top walked in. Maudie, this is June Ellen, and she'd like a Coca-Cola. She's pretty hot and tired, I think. June Ellen, this is my wife, Maudie. She helps me run this place. How do you do, Miss Maudie? Monty brought me a Coke with ice that slid around the outside of the bottle. It was so cold. You got any peanuts, Mr. Offenbacher? They sure would go good with this Coca-Cola. No, June Ellen, I don't. But let's talk about Thelma Hazelwood. Can you keep a secret? Yes, sir, I can. You can ask April Lee, my sister, and they will tell you that one thing you can count on me with is I can keep a secret. Well, I thought so, June Ellen. Some people, say like Thelma, for instance, they like to shop around a little, know what they're getting. Now, there's another funeral home here, Fenton's. You know where that is? Yes, sir, I do. It's at the other end of town near the other cemetery. That's right. Well, now, since the Depression and this war, a lot of people don't have very much money to spend on their burying. And what now? Now, look here at this card. You see all those different things you get to pick? Look there under material. You can choose silk or satin to line your casket. Look at all the different colors. from pink to purple or white. And under wood, you could have mahogany, pine, or cherry, or even maple. It's kind of like a menu when you go to a restaurant. People can be as fancy as they want. I looked at the menu and saw where you could get your hair done or get a haircut. You could even rent a suit for your laying out if you didn't have one. Gosh, Mr. Offenbacher, that's a lot of stuff just to get buried. That's right, but when you lose someone you love, you want to send them off right. Everyone wants to arrive in the glory land looking their best for Jesus. It sure costs a lot. Yes, it does, and that's what Thelma Hazelwood is figuring out today, how she wants to be buried. But she said she's dead. Well, that's part of her plan. Pretend she's dead and see what the ride here is like compared to Fenton's. And she wanted to be sure we could keep her red hat on right. Some people are just peculiar like that, and between you and me, she's one of them. That's our secret, okay? Well, I'm just glad she's not being buried alive. Mr. Offenbacher started laughing. Well, young lady, how about a ride home? In that hearse? No. I have my Chevrolet in the back. I thought I might give you a ride home in that instead. Well, that would be good. Mama wouldn't like it if I came home in a hearse. And Mr. Offenbacher, I think you should add peanuts to your menu. It would really let people know how fancy you are. So, anyway. And when I was writing some of these, they literally did come through me. And Dorothy Marcy, who's shaking her head, who also has written some really fine books and working on another one. I hope to do some readings with her sometime, both of us. It talks about the same thing as many authors have. It's really amazing what comes through you. And I know some of you are authors, and you can speak to that too. But I was often very surprised what came out of me, and the many women I wrote with, several who are here, had the same experience, what came out of us. So it was a pretty amazing way to write, and I got kind of addicted to it, actually. And I probably have this many notebooks full of that kind of writing. So this next little piece I'm going to read is called The Toad Man. Let's go, June Ellen. It's too darn stuffy in this house. No air moving at all. The only thing that's going to cool me down is a cold beer and Herman's fans blowing on me. And that's her daddy talking. And by this time, of course, he's gotten much worse as he keeps going down in the coal mine, and he's the boss, and he's the one who goes in first and lights a candle or something so that if there's any methane in it, there will be a small explosion. And he hits the floor to make sure there's no methane before anyone else goes down. It's called the fire boss. So he's gradually getting sicker and sicker, and June Ellen is starting to notice that, but at the same time, she doesn't want to give up on having her own coal mine because they have nothing but that. And so that's really a source of pride and ownership for her in this little town. If Daddy got too warm, he'd get to coughing. Last week we were freezing, but this week March came in like a lamb. Old Herman bought the fresh air blowers when they tore the old coal shacks down at the old Comet No. 2 mine. He screwed them into the wall across from the bar, Daddy's favorite place to sit. It was barely March, but when Daddy came in, Herman always turned one on for him, no matter the season. Mama let me go with him because she knew I'd take care of him, which meant he'd come home by supper. Dr. John told Daddy he needed to go to the Veterans Hospital in Little Rock to get an X-ray. They had new machines that could look inside and see Daddy's lungs. Daddy didn't want to go, but Mama said he had to. Before Daddy got so sick, he and Uncle Albert often stayed at Herman's till it closed at midnight. Then they would drive around the back roads, weaving in and out of old homesteads, visiting old fishing holes. Sometimes they just sat on top of Horseshoe Mountain and wished upon the stars and stared at the moon if there was one. Daddy liked to explore like me. He just couldn't do it like he used to. I knew all this because I got to go with them once. All HE double toothpicks broke loose at our house when we got home that night. But I got to see the most beautiful sunrise I'd ever seen. We'd sat on Horseshoe Mountain, the highest, rockiest bluff, and watched the sun peek up over the Arkansas River Valley, making the river look like the golden path to heaven. The sky lay behind like a beautiful stained glass window, all rose and orange and peach colored. I knew then that I believed in God and angels. And that's who I prayed to when I saw Mama's face when Uncle Albert turned into our driveway. We hadn't gone on a long drive at night since. At Herman's, I learned to suck the foam off Daddy's glass of beer. He said it got stuck in his throat and made him cough. I knew I had to do it, and I got pretty good at it. That's a true story. Anyway, Daddy and I hung out at the beer joint with the Toad Man and Sheriff Tobe Riley. Riley was one of the most important men in our town. He wore a holster with a pistol all the time. He took the shells out and let me play with his pistol right there at the bar. The Toad Man was also well known in these parts. He always came to the beer joint with a gunny sack full of bullfrogs. He'd been out frog gigging all night, and he smelled like backwater mud. He sold frog legs a nickel apiece, only you had to buy two because they were still attached to the back of the frog. That's why they called him the Toad Man. Daddy told me his name used to be Oscar Blends. Oscar used to be part of the night crew at the Dixie Mine. He was one of the brushers. They brush up when everyone leaves, and that extends the entry for the next day's shift. Well, Oscar got too close to where they were setting off short shots of dynamite. They do that in the evenings to put cracks in the coal veins, so the guys coming in the next day can go at it with their picks and shovels. Oscar was pretty badly hurt by the explosion. They got him out of the mine and took him to the Paris hospital, and Dr. John saved his life. But his face was blue afterwards from embedded coal dust from the blast. He changed after that, June Ellen. He wouldn't go back down in any mine. He camped in the woods along the river. He said he couldn't stand to be shut up inside anything with four walls again, not even his own home. That's how come his wife took off with all his kids. You be nice to him, June Ellen. I'd never noticed how blue his face was because he had whiskers everywhere. Now I looked real close, and I could see the blue pock-marked skin under his hairy beard. After that, whenever I had a dime, I bought 2 frog legs. Mama almost always fried them up for me and Daddy. And now I'm going to read just a short piece from when June Ellen finally gets down inside the coal mine. She finally figures out a way to get there. And so she and her dog Rex have started down, and they follow the railroad tracks down till they come to a ledge. And then she's able to kind of reach with her 10-year-old legs so she could touch the bottom. And then, of course, she'd grab Rex and pull him down and then say, "See, Rex, I knew you wanted to come too." And so anyway, they come to where the coal mines do kind of look like beehives, the way they've cut them out. And these guys would just jump kind of through that hole and start digging out coal. So I turned into the first tunnel I came to, which forked into 2 more. I crept slowly into the right fork. The ceiling, solid rock, was only about 4 feet high, and my hair touched it when I walked, creepy. I hunkered down like Rex. Several cave-like holes about 3 feet up from the floor emerged from the shadow of the candle. The candle flame flared and startled me, but I felt air on my sweaty skin, an airway I figured like Freddie talked about, not methane gas. "Rex, smell that fresh air? We're okay here." Then the candle flared up again, and this time it blew out. Cold, black darkness, deeper than any night I ever experienced, took hold. I wish I'd brought a jar to cover my candle with. I felt in my pocket for the matches I took from the cook stove. I struck one against the track, and it sputtered and fizzled out. The brief sputter only made the dark blacker. "Be careful," I scolded myself. My fingers touched the matches, only 3 left. I carefully pulled one from my pocket and struck it against the rock wall. This time, I carefully shielded the lit match in the cup of my hand, the way I watched Freddie and his buddies light their cigarettes. I touched the match to the wick, and it spurted to life. Feeble but warm in my hand, it flared up bright, but held this time. I scouted the cave-like holes in the black rock wall. They must be what Freddie climbed into to get the coal. A step dug into the wall of an opening became visible, and I jumped on it and leapt through the opening and tumbled down hard to solid, flat rock. My candle flew out of my hand, and the flame went out. I'd never seen black like this. It wasn't like night or coal black shoe polish or coal blacking for stoves. It was dense. Terror crept up on me. Hail Mary, full of grace, I prayed to the Virgin Mary. Then I thought of Annie Oakley when the robbers cornered her in the abandoned silver mine. She didn't give up. I reached my hand out and felt around the cave. Wax coated my fingers, and I followed the wax till I found the candle. I gripped it hard, not wanting to ever let it go. I pulled myself up and searched my pockets for a match. Only 2 left, Rex. I struck the match, touched the wick, and light filled the cave. Only 1 match left, but I had light again for now. Rex refused to jump up into the small opening. He hunkered down with his head between his paws. He didn't say a word, though. Okay, Rex, just wait there. I just want to see what a wall of coal looks like. I swear I'll be right back. Cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. Rex believed me. In front of me, the wall of coal stretched farther than my light. Up close, it glittered in the candlelight, reflected a silvery sheen like the scales of a brim in sunlight. I touched it with the tips of my fingers, sliding down an open seam. The coal was hard with a softness when I rubbed it. Soot covered my fingers. I held them to the candlelight, and they were black. I held the candle as close to the wall as I could. I feared I might set it on fire if I got too close. Big cracks and dents showed where the pickaxe had broken out chunks of coal. I stuck my hand inside the hole, feeling around its jagged edges, rough and sharp. The ceiling, gray, black rock, hung low like a tomb. Slate, Freddie called it, held up by huge pieces of timber. I kicked my feet at the soft mounds underfoot that stirred up coal dust like black flour laying thick on the floor. I coughed and sputtered as I breathed it in. It was like dust on the road when a car goes by on a hot, dry day. I felt it settle all over me, my hair, my clothes. In the candlelight, a cloud of black dust surrounded me. Every time I tried to take a breath, I choked and coughed. I couldn't even catch my own breath. Daddy coughed like this, I thought. This is what filled up his lungs and took away his breath. I touched my finger to the fine black powder and imagined it going into my lungs and living there forever. I tasted it. I had to. Fine grit got in between my teeth and burnt my tongue. I spit and spit to get it out. My throat was dry and swollen. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, and I felt the black coal dust spread over my face. I reached down to the floor with my candle, and I saw the shine in a piece of coal. I picked it up, overcome by that shine in this place where there was only black dark. I touched the surface, rubbed my thumb along it, smooth, anthracite, the cleanest burning coal in the country. I wanted a reminder of my daddy's coal mine. I felt proud because it belonged to him, which meant it belonged to me too. But the coal mine and the coal dust frightened me. I remembered some words from the poem Sister Agatha read us in the library when a miner got trapped down in a coal mine and died. It was about listening to coal for a tale of leaves and ferns and frond forests, because that is where coal came from, the sun that created the forest, because that was what coal used to be. And this poet, Owen, said that when coal burned, you could hear the moans of the boys who died there, writhing for air. I bent down and scooped up a handful, feeling the coal dust leak through my fingers. I thought about the miners hurt and killed by it, but mostly I thought about Daddy lying in a bed at night, coughing and hacking at black snot, his lungs full of what I held in my hand. Rex, this is what feeds us and kills us. Let's get out of here. Thank you. Questions? Anything?
I don't have a question, but I want to thank you and Joanne so much for coming and doing this talk. And I want to tell you that these are, I already have the book, but these are Christmas presents.
Oh, thank you, Betty.
And I'm so affected by the fact that this book speaks to all ages, well, from maybe 12 up. But to me, it speaks, and it would speak to a 15-year-old. I'm giving these to two 20-year-olds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Somebody did a charge and it didn't go through.
Someone did a charge and it didn't go through. Do you know who?
No.
Okay.
They can come back here. We'll
Thank you, Joanne.
I gave her a
That's
pen.
Joanne.
I gave her a pen so she can sign your book.
Okay. And I just want to say also, thanks to Susan Raymond and Pat Hennon, who are part of Hen's Teeth. I want to thank Linda Level, who was in many writing groups with me, June Jefferson, who's not here. And I want to thank Lisa Sharp, who had Nightbird Books, and she let us come there and use her room all the time and never charged us. And she was such a part of so many of us writing in this community, and I want to be sure and thank her also. I will be at the West Fork Library Thursday at 2 o'clock next week, and I'm going to be back in Paris, Arkansas for holiday open. The square opens up for a holiday fair, and a woman there with a coffee shop has offered me her coffee shop where I can sign and sell books and read, maybe if it's possible too. And Liz Lester, who designed this beautiful book, I really want to thank her also. Thank you, Liz. Incredible artist, incredible book designer, and she really walked me through this, turning it into a book, and thank you. So, okay, any other questions? Elizabeth?
I was wondering how long from start to finish this has been.
Well, Pat Carr, who, if you've got the book, and I really write quite a piece on her, when I was at one of her workshops, which she offered for free during Lent at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, I asked her to look at it and would she maybe do some editing, because I had a stack like this of short little, and I didn't know what to do with it. And she said yes, but she didn't do editing anymore, but she would look at it. And she came back and said, I'll do it. And I'm charged this much a page, and I said, that's okay. And we worked together probably 10 years, 8, and she never let me pay her a dime. She wanted June Ellen to be out there. She said, this is a story no one knows about how coal miners would lease these little mines and try to make a living, and this town built up around them. And that whole kind of community really of migrants, German Catholic migrants, who came through there, and you were either coal miners or farmers. And a lot of times they only sold coal for heat, so they farmed in the summer, and then when it heated up, it got cold again, they'd go back and work in the coal mines and sell coal then for heat. And then, of course, it changed when the big machines came in, but it was an incredible community, and there's a coal miners museum there that's incredible, and they're the ones who put this book together. And the director of that museum is 86, and she's the only one left out of all those people, and there are no coal miners left. But their stories are in here, and there's 2 other volumes of this. And every picture, every newspaper article, everything they could find about that time are in these books, and they're absolutely amazing. And the stories that people told, and people did write their stories or had other people write them up, they're absolutely amazing. I mean, there are so many books in this one book. It's amazing. So anyway, yes.
Are you writing a sequel or another book?
Only in my dreams. You know, anyone who has written a book and it gets published or is self-published, you know, you can't help but you want people to read it, and you want to talk about it, and to get the kind of feedback I get from people, and that takes a lot of time. But many people ask me, I can't wait for the sequel, and I try to imagine what else she could do. What would Janelle do next? So, thank you. And Talia and I were also in workshops in Piggott, Arkansas, at the Hemingway Pfeiffer Museum with Pat Carr. She and I kind of started together with her first book also, so we go back a long ways. Diana.
Was there really a Rex in your life?
Yes. And I wrote a story about that dog, also, a true story about what happened to that dog. I'll tell you sometime. Nan.
Well, you know, I remember because I read drafts of this wonderful book.
Yeah, Nan read the whole draft, many drafts of this book also.
And it was a pleasure every time. Every time I loved it.
Thank
So,
you.
and I remember that it flowed out of you, but was there any particular part that was really difficult to write when you felt like, I really want to get this right and it wasn't coming?
I think endings are hard, definitely. And I think the hardest the hardest story to write was the story about the softball game, because trying to keep up with all the players, what they hit, what base they were on, and what happened next. Don't ever write a story about a baseball or softball game. It was really hard, and I thought I was done when Talia, I think it was you, read it again. Maybe I asked you to check, and you caught something about the softball game, and I thought, how the hell did she do that? No one's going to read the softball game like she must have. But
That is such a great.
yes, and you know, since then people have written me how much they love that softball story, and I had to cut a lot of it because people get saying it's too long, it's too long. I said, but it's so important. But you know, I cut, and I still thought this is too long. But I have had several people who I don't know write me about how much they love that softball story. So, Liz.
Tell us the names of the teams in that softball story.
The Martyrs and the Saints. And June Ellen was on the Saints team. And her worst friend, they battled each other all the time in softball, told her that the Martyrs were holier than saints and they were going to heaven and they would win. And June Ellen told her, but martyrs have to die first and we're going to help you. So. Okay, well, thank you all very much for being here. There's nothing like having your good friends and even people you don't know just show up to hear you read. Blessings. Bless you. And now I will also sign any books.